I've been a stuntman in the industry for quite some time. I've worked with The Rock, Ryan Reynolds. I've had fun, I just had a lot of fun and it's been really good. But something that's much like dear to my heart is saving the kids because there's a massive crisis going on, especially with school shootings. And nobody's doing anything about it.
You know I'm always fierce in the fashion that I wear. I be selling on my peers. Diamonds glare, make them stare. In the verse, switch your gears. Move forward, never rear. I don't even look in mirrors. Every day I'm always fierce. Garments in my closet so fly, they need a passport. Fabric imported from Indonesia, need a visa. Popping tags at my leisure. Ship gets two-seater. I don't care if I'm on a bus or a 10-speeder. You would never catch a mega in a dusty pair of sneakers. Nike, Jordan, or Adidas. I can't do Balenciaga. Owned a couple pair, but they ain't really fit me proper. So I put them on my eBay and I sold it at a profit. Then I sold some retro polo, so I went ahead and copied moto pants, complete my outfit.
Welcome to Fierce Entertainment Live, where we talk to different people in the entertainment industries, from actors to models to singers, and all of the people behind the scenes that make the magic happen. This is episode number 3. I'm Rob Henlin, joined by my sister Jessica Henlin.
Hey.
And my honorary sister, Star Dalton.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So, ladies, this is episode number 3. How you guys doing? How you feeling? What you been up to?
Ooh, super excited. Look at us. Episode 3 in season 2. So hyped to be back. It's been great. I love all of the engagement on social media. So we're excited. People are excited. Here we are.
Nice.
So today I want to do a shout out. My mom's birthday is this week on Thursday. So happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Mom Dalton. Cool. And so, Star, I know you've also been active with your artwork, which is something that we want to start featuring in the show. So tell us about, what are you working on and what's your latest piece?
Okay. So I'm working on a Sun and Moon series. They're all different and unique in their own way. I actually have a piece right here that I just finished yesterday.
Nice.
I love that. But the sun and the moon are together. The sun's really subtle.
Cool.
I love those colors.
That's beautiful.
Yes, it's very sparkly. So, I started playing with acrylic paint, and that's where I get my basically like the foundation, and then it kind of gives me an inspiration on what I want to put over it. So when I saw the reds and the yellows, just really thought, really did scream at me the sun to be a dominant in this in this painting. And then of course I added a little crushed glass, some flakes of silver on the sides, and then topped it off with resin. So I'm pretty proud of how it turned out.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about why you're doing the series about the sun and the moons. What's the significance? And you're the star.
Isn't that funny? I've always, and maybe because of my name, but I've always loved things that have to do with the universe, basically, especially suns and moons and stars. My dad would always give me, like, on Christmas and whatnot, little star jewelry. So, I don't know. I just dedicated this series to that just because I've always been fond of it.
Nice.
I love that.
I love it. I think it's a nice theme, and I think that's a beautiful piece right there. I love the colors. It's very vibrant.
Thank you so much. I'm usually a fanatic about lions, so I thought, let me take a break from my lions and then try something different outside the box. So.
Yeah, I love that. So I've been following your journey and starting with resin, and now I see you're mixing like different methods or materials. So tell me, like, how do you decide what's going to land on the piece? Like, I'm going to use resin, paint, acrylic. Like, how did you come to that?
Right. So I started with resin only, and then I would come across things, let's say on YouTube, where they had cells. And I don't know, does this one have cells? So some of these have little spots on it. And I was like, how do they make it? And they were making cells with the acrylic paint. So I went and bought some acrylic paint. And at first I thought it was a horrible mess. But again, as you keep applying and doing different things, it ends up being beautiful. But that's how I started learning about the acrylic paints and how to work together. And the resin just makes it just finishes the painting off. It just perfects it.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Well, as you know, one of my favorite pieces of yours is residing at my house in the front of my house. So anybody that walks up to my door could take a look at it, and it's a beautiful lion. So that's amazing. I love the way that you incorporated the colors and the different textures in that. So that's awesome.
I have a piece right here if you want to see it. It has the lion head that I incorporated on your piece, but
Yeah.
it's in a shadow box. Do you want to see
Oh,
it?
yeah. Let's see it. Let's take a look.
Can you see? In a box, so it can sit on a flat surface, or it can hang because it also
That's
has hanging.
That's dope.
So
All
it
right.
has your lion head. I put gold flakes inside.
So all of your art is for sale, right?
Uh-huh.
So if anybody wants to buy one of your pieces or see some of your other pieces, how can they get in contact with you, and what's the best way to sell them?
Okay. So I do have a website. I need to work on it. But I do have some of my items on there. Star with 2 R's, lovedesigns.com. And then I'm on Instagram. That's a good way to message me, with Star Loves Designs, also on IG.
Wow, Star, that art is amazing. And oh man, so once again, if you like what you see, if you want to see more of Star's art, definitely hit her up on her platforms. So Jessica, what have you been up to this past week?
Oh, well, let's see. I did a really cool trip to Arizona. I went to Phoenix
Um,
and stayed in Phoenix and then ventured out to the Grand Canyon and Sedona. But Phoenix was just amazing.
Oh wow. And did you do anything interesting or see anything interesting over there while you was over there? Or what's something that stood out for you?
Yeah, something that stood out, besides the nature, which is like I've always heard how beautiful it is there, but it's something you just have to see with your own eyes. So nature for sure. But I would say that I was able to visit a museum there. It's called the Heard Museum, and it's based off of the history and the culture of the Native Americans, which are majority Navajo in that area, in that region.
What kind of hole?
Navajo.
Oh,
Did I say it right? Navajo. You didn't have me
Navajo.
for a second guessing
That's
myself.
sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, got you.
Yeah, so the Navajo, so that museum, it is, you kind of generally know the history, whether it's on the eastern side or on the western side, it's very similar in how history goes. But one thing that stood out is there's a segment where they talk about the schooling of the children. And what happens is that the children were taken away from their homes and taken to a boarding school. And so it walks you through how they were, their culture was taken from them. And first, what they did is they took away their clothing, their traditional clothing, and forced them to wear the more traditional style clothing that was brought over. And then they cut their hair, which is their strength, is that how they describe it, as their strength. And then they took away their language, forced them to speak English and forced Christianity on them. So, while it was mesmerizing, it was also upsetting, just to be reminded of the history. But, we need to know these things because it is indeed American history. That's what this country, how it was established. So I highly recommend just being familiar with what occurred. There was also a great tribute to the military, public service, those who served in the military from Navajo. the Navajo tribe, and in every war, in every deployment, there's a list there.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and then last
Yeah.
thing I'll say, the code talkers. So the code talkers just in the early 2000s received an honor. I'm not going to say like the right kind of honor, but from the federal government. And the code talkers helped us in World War II because they were able to easily transcribe and communicate in a code to where the enemy didn't know what was happening. So they pretty much saved us and, helped
Wow.
us in World War II.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. My mom's side is Cherokee. So growing up, my early years, my mom had jet black hair, straight to her backside. She wore leather headbands, moccasins, and I didn't understand. I'm like, why, Mom? Why don't you? But she was so proud of her culture, and I remember visiting reservations when I was young too. So
That's
it's
dope.
pretty cool.
That's,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. And what area, what state?
She's from Tennessee, so I believe Tennessee, Oklahoma area is where they are. Mhm.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Jessica.
Yeah.
So as for me, this weekend, some of you guys may know I have two puppies, right? My son has one and I have one. They're brothers, litter mates, pretty much twins. Roscoe is mine and Nachos is my son's. And they are rambunctious. They're Boston Terriers. So this weekend in St. Petersburg, Florida, they had what they called a Boston Terrier tea party. So basically everybody met up and we walked like a little over a mile. Everybody walked their Boston Terriers and, we stopped at different locations and posed for some pictures. And let me tell you, man, it was fun. You know what I'm saying? It was cool to see how the dogs interacted. Yeah.
I love it. Did you put outfits on them or?
We went out there, so Roscoe had his Orlando Magic jersey on, and Nacho had a Hawaiian shirt. But it got so hot that, we just stripped them off. So,
Okay.
yeah, it got hot out there.
You were dressed to impress.
Yeah.
How many dogs did you say? How many were there? Did they get kind of like a head count?
We didn't do a head count, but it was more than 50. I want to say close to 100. It was around 100 Boston's.
Can you imagine?
Let's bring in our guest for today, Mr. Mark Hulsewe.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Mark, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here and taking the time to chop it up with us for a little bit. How are you doing tonight?
No, I'm doing really well. I appreciate your time, and thank you for this moment with you and the rest of the team. I've been a stuntman in the industry for quite some time. I've worked with The Rock, Ryan Reynolds. I've had fun, I just had a lot of fun, and it's been really good. But something that's much dear to my heart is saving the kids, because there's a massive crisis going on, especially with school shootings, and nobody's doing anything about it. We have our leaders in Congress that are not doing anything about it. There's tons of bullying awareness programs everywhere, but it seems no one has the actual solution. And that's what it comes down to is frequencies. And the point of the film is to show the audience that the number one cause of school shootings is bullying. And what people don't realize is that bullying, the scientific term behind bullying, is human dominance behavior. Now, our mind has multiple layers to it. The lowest layer is the survival portion of the brain, where, once upon a time when we all lived in the woods, when we had to worry about a bear, right? The survival mechanism kicks in, and that's good. You need that to survive. You're fearful of the bear to survive, to flee, to survive. We're no longer in the woods. Now we're in the classrooms. But those same survival mechanisms are still in place. The kids are subconsciously projecting that fear vibration towards one another. And that compounded over time is the result of these school shootings, because everything is energy, and it's a form of negative energy that harnesses and grows over time, which leads to these explosions. And that's what I'm trying to educate people on, is that we have the power to alter our frequency and our energy. That's one of the greatest secrets that we were never taught, is that just like you go into a car, you dial into a radio station, you tune into a frequency that's in the airwaves. The big secret is that our thoughts do the same thing. It has been proven by quantum physics that your thoughts are not just some internal experience, but it actually projects out to this world that we are in on a harmonious vibrational scale. So my goal is to educate, is to bring to educators that we need to reform the school system, where we need to teach kids this information as early as possible. We need to turn them from mindlessness to mindfulness, making that switch so they are not operating off of their survival mode. And if people do not learn to harness their high frequency of love, gratitude, and kindness away from the fear, anger, sadness, and depression, then people will continue to behave that way for the rest of their lives. That's why you see bullying in adult workplaces, is because they're projecting that human dominance behavior towards one another. And that's, I believe, the root cause of why is there so many shootings, suicides, and murders, is that people are operating off of a global low frequency. And I love what Nova talked about in terms of music, because I forgot what it was, if it's a 440 hertz or 432 hertz, but they made some shift decades ago where that's the subliminal frequency in music of a lot of types of negative type of music, subconsciously imprinting this information onto our youth. And we are seeing the world fall apart, and we wonder why. It's because so many people are operating off of a low frequency and a low energy, and it's all bouncing off towards one another, and we have chaos. The good news is that I believe that we can transform that, but it must be done on a global scale. We must all raise our consciousness and our frequency towards love and gratitude and kindness. That's the goal of this film and project, is to teach kids this information.
That's awesome. And so before we get more into the film, right? So let's say, you have people like Jessica. Jessica, tell us your background.
My background is in counseling and psychology. So currently working on a PhD in educational psychology.
Love that.
What, as far as scientific data, you mentioned some studies and stuff like that.
Right.
Are there any studies that you're familiar with?
Well, the light that switched was when I heard about Nikola Tesla. He's one of the smartest men who've ever lived. And when he said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, energy, frequency, and vibration, you zoom in on the smallest, you take the microscope of the most powerful scale, you zoom into any particle, and on the subatomic level, it's all vibrating energy. What may appear to be still in front of you, like a desk or whatever item, on the deepest root, it's vibrating very powerfully. And it's been shown that we vibrate the same way. And there's a couple of CIA documents that have been declassified that talk about astral projection. And, that the rabbit hole goes very deep if people are willing to research into it. And, people treat like physics like we are separate from this physical world, when we are in fact intimately a part of it. And one of the most mind-breaking experiments that proved this was the double slit experiment, where a particle changed through observation. Like, for me, reality broke when that was discovered. So literally, the choice you make, you are vibrating that into a new reality. So that's the power that we have, is switching that energy. So you take a person who's living in that lower frequency of anger, sadness, and depression, it's not just an internal feeling. You are literally vibrating those same energy matter into the same space around you, and you attract that into your life. That's why misery breeds misery, and good things breed more good things.
Yeah,
Right.
and so would you say like when somebody walks into the room and they're like angry and they have like and they walk in the room and they have that, so some people call it energy, the negative energy. You come in and you're like, oh wow, I feel that energy.
That's
Would you say that's the frequency that they're vibrating?
Yeah, no, that's precisely what it is. Or vice versa, if the man like The Rock walks into a room, everyone just like stops and stares. Not because like, oh, he's The Rock. The man carries an energy with him. And I saw it on set. The second he walks through those doors, everything changes. So we all have that power. We all have that power to shift into that very highest vibration and frequency. And the greatest gift is knowing that whatever negative energy is going on around you, you have the power to block that. You can subconsciously and consciously choose not to allow that negative energy to come through you. You can still hear it, you can still listen to it, but you cannot allow it to permeate you. That's why a lot of people that are stuck in routines of failure is, when they fail at something, they go like, oh, I suck, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. And sure enough, they repeat the same thing, failing over and over and over again. Your superpower is your ability to switch that negative energy you have to a positive energy. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through affirmations and switching your identity. It's been proven through neuroscience that the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you think about. It wires the same neurons together. So if you can learn how to wire those new neurons for success and positivity, that's the path that you will take.
Yeah, see, and I agree with that as well. Unfortunately, for my kids, I kind of experimented with them on that, right? So I have 3 kids, right?
Right.
My son, I used to always tell him, like, while he was sleeping, and always, like, whisper to him, like, you're the best in the world. Nobody could stop you. You're the greatest.
Right.
Because he was an athlete. He always was into basketball.
Right.
And now, unfortunately, to this day, now I can't get that out of the mind that he's not the best out of everything. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
And then with my daughters, I'll tell them both. I say, you're the most beautiful girl in the world. You're the smartest in the world.
Right.
And I'll always tell them, like, when they're sleeping, sometimes I tell them when they're up,
Right.
growing up. Now, they're both in their 20s, and like, no man is good enough for them because they already know that they're the best in the world. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna get grandkids between my son, a son who thinks he's the best in the world. Saying
Right.
unstoppable. Nobody could beat him at anything. And I believe it too. I said it so much that I believe him. So anytime he was thinking and somebody like talk about basketball, I said, my son could beat you. I don't care how tall you are, how strong you are. My son, because I said it so much that I believe it. I truly believe it. And my daughters are the most beautiful and most intelligent women in the world. So
I think that's a great gift that you gave them, because not everybody has that, like, self-confidence and love for themselves. So I think that's beautiful, actually.
yeah.
But like, again, there's so many awareness programs, but again, it's the action behind it, and we need more than just like feel good stories. We need tools to give our kids to guide them to shift their way of thinking and their way of behavior on a mass scale. Everyone's got to be involved. The educators, the adults, the parents, like the community. This is a cultural crisis on a grand scale. And we all have to pitch in order to solve this. Otherwise, bodies will continue to pile up. And I'm tired of hearing about, let's, invent bulletproof backpacks. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're just throwing Band-Aids, surface level solutions towards a much deeper problem. And that's what I'm trying to address. That's what I'm trying to do, is to get at the roots and yank it out and plant some new roots. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, I agree that there has to be a culture shift,
Yes.
and drawing attention to it, even if it's at a basic level. So like with the frequencies and that depth, that's all new to me.
Right.
And I understand it. It's like, it's energy. You see it with kids. You even see it like with animals, with pets.
Absolutely.
They're picking up on something.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
So even if it's at the basic level of understanding that there is something there and it is effect on your mood, which
Correct.
has an effect on behavior.
Yep.
Getting that message out there it's a win-win.
Exactly. It 100% is.
So, Mark, let me ask you this, right?
Yes.
In addition to the movie, I think that we want to get into that shortly.
Yes.
But I actually have a few questions. You are how tall?
I am 6'9".
And if you don't mind me asking, how much do you weigh?
I'm about 300, and I've trained really hard to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about your story, because I have a hard time believing that somebody that's 6'9", 300 pounds was ever bullied.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You see me how I am now. You did not see me how I was when I was a child or a teenager to an early teen. You know, I was a very different human being structurally wise. Like I was rail thin because I was a picky eater. Plus, I played a lot of basketball. That's a combination for not putting on muscle. And I was just really thin, and clothes didn't fit me right. I didn't know about fashion. I'm a child, right? But people relentlessly made fun of me. Like everywhere I went to, whether it's a private school or a public school, it didn't matter. Everyone projected their fear, their whatever they're going through towards me. Because I was the tallest one. I guess I was just the literal biggest object to make fun of. And everyone did. I had almost no friends. I was very introverted, and my escape was basketball and video games. And here's the thing, I loved education, I loved learning, but my only relief from the pain was going home and playing basketball or playing games. So I struggled in school, unless it was courses that I really liked. But that's because I didn't care. I went to school and I was like, okay, I'm going to suffer. The teachers, they were kind of aware of it, but naive too, because kids they're highly manipulative. They'll act one way in front of the adults. Second they turn their back, they'll be very different story.
Right.
But because I was the physically larger one.
That's what Jessica used to do to me, as we were growing up. She'll be like one way in front of my dad. You're like all angel.
You can't listen.
And as soon as my dad's not looking, you know what I'm saying? She's like, evil. Yeah, that's Jessica. But go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. But yeah, because I was physically larger, they assumed I can take it, or I don't know, because I'm the bigger one, the smaller ones, they got some kind of pass. I don't know, because usually the bigger kid picks on the smaller kid type of stereotypical nonsense. But it was the opposite. Again, everybody targeted me, made fun of me. And just to show the reflection of the power of words and how depressed I actually got. The worst was when I was 9 years old, and the two words that kids call on me was gay and faggot. Those were the two words that kids those were just the words that they said in the 90s. I don't know what they think, but that was it. And I was like, why are they calling me this? I just questioned and wondered why. And I remember going to my dad and I was like, hey Dad, these kids are doing this. This is after months of holding it in. I was like, these kids are saying this to me. I don't know why. My dad instantly blew up in anger, because that was my reprieve from my childhood sadness. Was I had strong parents. I had my mom and my dad. They were my fortress. They kept me sane. And I remember they took me to school and went to the principal's office. The principal, they explained what happened. Furious and irate, and I'll never forget this day. She asked my parents to excuse themselves. And it was just me and her in the room. And she looked at me right in my eyes. And without questioning anything at all, she just looked at me and she said, Mark, it's okay to be gay. And my brain kind of broke when that happened. And that's when I actually attempted suicide that evening. It's because maybe I know in her eyes, she thought that I was some closeted whatever, which I wasn't. I didn't care about sexuality, nothing. I was just a child trying to make friends. That's literally it. And, when she said that, she basically confirmed that I was this virus, this bad thing that the rest of the kids were calling me. So I was like, why am I living? Why am I alive? There's really no purpose. Just to suffer for what? For no reason? And that's when I attempted, and the rope broke. So that was for me, a sign from the higher power that no, this is not your time. And from there, I just became highly introverted, very quiet. I was like, you know what? Nobody wants to be friends with me. Okay, I'm just going to go in my corner and I'm just going to just do my thing by myself. And that's how I was for years and years and years. I went to school, studied business and finance, and I got a job in accounting because I'm like, okay, I'm good with numbers. I'm away from people. Like that moment planted a deep seed in my brain that changed the trajectory of my life drastically up until when I was about 25 years old. And I was like, you know what? I'm really bored of accounting. I want to try something different. And that's when I went over to Star Wars weekends over at Disney, because a lot of friends are like, oh, you should audition for Star Wars. And that's when I became, friends with Chewbacca. That was my first experience in entertainment, and I had the time of my life. And that's when I started reading about energies and frequencies. And like one of the most powerful books that I read at the time was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that everything changed. Everything shifted once I read that book. And I realized that the world is more of a mental game than it's not an outside game. It's like really is a mental game. And once you master yourself, you can now stop allowing life to control you, and you take control of life in a positive way. And once you start going into your purpose, you start entering into a high flow state where better things start coming to you. You enter like a golden vortex of energy once you're in your purpose. And that's when the manifestations of love or abundance or the vacation home, whatever it is, starts flowing into your life because you are now in your flow. But that's when I started just reading deeper books of how deep it can actually go. But that's my story in a nutshell of bullying. And it's funny because like now everyone wants to be my friend. Why? Because I've worked on myself. I worked on myself so hard that when people see me, they go like, wow, their jaws drop, not just that I'm tall, but they see something else. And I project that energy too. And most importantly, I go out everywhere I go with kindness. And anybody who might think badly about me, I sort of diffuse them immediately. I don't even let the seeds be planted. I'll shake my hand and be like, hey, my name's Mark, how are you doing? And just start, a positive conversation. Their defenses drop immediately. We become friends. And like, there's nothing but positive energy happening around me. And it's wild to me because back then it was the polar opposite because I was a black hole of negative energy. So I literally felt that experience of frequencies in my life and the shift of, how low you can be to now going the other direction of a positive flow of good things happening. We all have that power, but you have to tap into that flow by shifting your frequencies and your energies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, how did you control it from being a positive person instead of a negative person? Because now, as 6'9", 300 pounds, you can really be the biggest, baddest bully in any room. But you decided you specifically chose not to. What inside of you made you choose to not be the bully?
That's a really, really fantastic question. Psychology dives deep into those questions. Kids are not aware of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has mirror neurons. So that's when you see something, your body automatically reacts to that energy. And that's what 99% of people do. They are reactive to whatever experiences are going on around them. The key is flipping that switch that you do not have to be engaged by that, whatever that energy is, and you can bring forward that positive energy. But to answer your question specifically, is I've been down that road. I know what it feels like to be made fun of. I know what it's like to feel like garbage to the point where you want to take your life as a child. Like what? And adults are going through that all the time. Like we have the highest suicide rates ever in the history of ever because this self-awareness is non-existent, that people, they're harnessing and harboring this negative energy, not knowing what to do with it. So they just carry it like the black hole and they carry it wherever they go until one day they can't take it anymore. And that's why they either, end themselves or they go shoot up school or whatever it is. We're seeing the manifestations over periods of time on an individual basis of these explosions of negative energy. And there's a bunch of ticking time bombs going on out there that we aren't even aware of happening right now. My goal is to diffuse those bombs, to remove them completely by getting in deep into the human psychology that we are all highly connected. We are not meant to be separated from one another. We are meant to be together. We are meant to support each other. We are meant to lift each other up, and we are meant to rise all together.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I believe in it.
Now, next question before we get into the movie was: have you ever thought about getting into politics?
I would. I absolutely would, and I would try to gather as many people as possible. Because one thing that sickens me is the whole left wing and right wing. You know, there's so much division. There's so like middle ground for us to talk about. And that separation is creating this further animosity, unnecessary animosity towards one another. You know, like you say somebody, oh, I'm right wing or I'm left wing. Like the amount of anger and explosion of whatever happens just from that alone is wild. So my goal is just to try to to unify us, to help all of us. You know, like because I'm really wanting to save the future generation, and that in turn is helping the rest of the planet, you know, because you have so many minds out there, you know, that are wasted, that where great things can be happening. There are so many, and there's so many broken children who become broken adults that never reach their potential, and that's almost everyone, and it's extremely sad. This is not meant to be like, oh, only a few are meant to enjoy the greatness of everything, and the rest of y'all can suffer. We are all literally meant to succeed together. We all have unique talents. We all have unique gifts to give to the world. Your purpose in life is to find that gift, master that gift, and then give that to the world. Otherwise, you will be forever depressed, no matter how many millions of dollars you have in your account. You know, but the two can coincide. You can be wealthy and abundant, but also, you know, living your purpose at the same time. So that's the shift that I'm trying to make on a mass scale. You know, because I'm tired of people hurting themselves and hurting each other.
And I'll just a note there, like with the middle ground, our children go to the same schools, whether you're left or right. So
Correct.
in that middle ground, there's so many things that either side is passionate about. So if they can rally around change, then it's the best. It's best for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And but because I am not in politics right now, I'm trying to do my duty as a civilian to bring forth another way to provide a solution. You know, if I wasn't politics, I'd be turning everything around right now to shake things up, to make everything better, because so much is not. But because I'm not, this is what I can do. I can create this film with an incredible team, and we can create a message. And if that's the starting point, then that's the starting point, and then it just branches off from there. So I'm just trusting the process. Never in a million years did I think I'd ever be in this position. I thought I would still be an accountant, and that'd be my life, truly.
Wow.
It wasn't until I figured out this ability to shift energies and frequencies and the power that we have, and we can express that and utilize that and do something with it, you know. I wanted something different. I wanted something just drew out to me, like, hey, what can you do? What else can you do?
Mm.
And that might be in
You
your
also have
life,
a creative
you know?
brain. So
Right.
you have a creative brain too.
Yes.
that needs to be fulfilled. So that's where the other things. So I saw you, even when we were talking about music, I saw that you have some musical talent as well. So you have a creative brain.
Yeah,
And
no,
I do as well. Like not with music, but with art and things like that.
Yeah, no, that was one of my outlets growing up, was a piano. That came much later. That wasn't until I was 20 years old. I just sat down. I went through some heartbreak, and I just sat down on the piano and just, like, you know, I opened up YouTube. It was like the beginning of YouTube, 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
Somebody recorded themselves playing Moonlight Sonata with the camera pointing downwards. And for 3 hours a day, I would, like, practice the right hand, the left hand, and then together, and then, like, the next 5 seconds, and the next 5 seconds. And I went from zero skill to playing that whole piece, Moonlight Sonata, the second movement, in 30 days.
Wow.
Just because I was just relentlessly dedicated and focused. And it shows our power of incredible neuroplasticity. The second you make a new decision, your brain rewires itself and it adjusts to that new situation. And fortunately, that happens throughout our entire lives. It's not just the myth of, only kids, are able to learn. They learn faster, but it doesn't stop there. Our power of neuroplasticity lasts for the rest of our lives, and you can use that to always learn something new.
Very cool.
So about this film, tell us what's the story, and tell us about some of the people, the actors, and the other people that helped put it together.
Yeah. So the film is going to revolve around two high school boys, and it shows two perspectives. One's the bully and one's the bullied perspective. And we literally see what the storyline of what goes on behind one of the kids and what goes on behind closed doors in their lives, and then what's going on with the other kid, what's going on in his lives. And then it shows their interactions, with the specific bullying that he deals with. There's a very strong scene in the film where we project like this kid does something really nasty to this kid, and sort of showing the harboring of where these emotions originate from and where it comes from. Because studies have been proven, multiple studies, that bullying is the number one cause. There are other causes, single parent households, drug addiction, sexual abuse. The list goes on, but bullying is number one. So that's why I wanted to highlight this in this film. And then the stories diverge into the main events. And that's, I'm not directing the film myself. I got the director for the film. The director won multiple awards on his last film. I'm very good friends with him. He's very creative with what he does. And we got the main actors too. We're looking for a couple of other smaller roles, but we started principal photography last month. This has been 3 years in the making, and just the stars aligned, just everything aligned. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's just finally all aligning to come out, and that's why I'm making a massive push for this to happen and just to bring out this story, to just try to bring the biggest impact possible. My goal is to submit to the major film festivals in Orlando and Florida, and then the goal is Cannes and Sundance. Then to turn it into a feature film, get it in the main theaters, get it in streaming Hulu or Netflix, because the message must be put out there. This violence has got to stop.
Wow. And we love that. We support you. Anything that Team Fierce and the Fierce Entertainment Network can do to help you, definitely call on us.
Absolutely.
And, Star was an actor as well. So if you need, some extras.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
And Jessica, she was
an extra.
Jessica's been twerking in a few music videos back in.
Really?
She has been actually. You were dancing.
But not twerking, dancing.
Not twerking, oh.
She was young. She was not twerking.
But I've been a movie extra and I walked
been in a
across
movie.
the street really well.
Reading Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was acting real good on that, Reading Rainbow. Have you ever seen that? You remember when you were a kid?
Of course I remember Reading Rainbow.
I talked about how he bullied me in
her acting debut.
On Reading Rainbow.
She went on Reading Rainbow.
Are you serious?
And lied about her trying to get along with me by saying she's sorry. The first and last time my sister told me she was sorry was in 2015. How long ago was that? 2015. That was a few years ago. Back. She said she was sorry about.
Never sorry.
So she's never sorry. See, so she went on Reading Rainbow.
My brother and I fight sometimes, but I try to get along by saying I'm sorry.
That was an actor. That's an actor. That's acting at his finest.
Yeah.
She was only like 6 years old too. I'm like, wow.
Anyway.
So Mark, how can people who want to support you, who want to support your cause, how can they get in contact? Who want to support your film, who want to donate, who want to, just be a part of this? What can they do? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, just contact me directly. My Instagram is @MarkHulsewe. You can just message me right there to however you want to be involved. And, whether it's donations, but most importantly, it's like, hey, I know a commissioner, I know a mayor, I know somebody influential that can, have an impact in the education system, because that is the goal of this, is to infiltrate the education system, to be like, hey, this is going on. We are crying out. I'm 37 years old, and, I'm old enough that I've seen this for going on for too long, and also see that the pattern is there of no solution to it, other than, respectfully. Like, every time there's a shooting, there's always two knee-jerk reactions. Number one is thoughts and prayers, and I get the intention behind it, but we need drastic action. Since the Columbine shooting, which kickstarted this whole process, there's been 400 high school shootings. Action is needed. And the second thing is gun control. And I tell people all the time, like, we can hypothetically ban all guns today. Even if we did, there would still be 500 million guns in the black market in the United States. So just like drugs, they could find it very easily. We have to get to the root, and that is changing hearts. That's what it comes down to. We have lost our humanity. People are just nasty to each other. Social media has made it worse. COVID has made it even worse. People are highly disconnected. And it's like, we got to change this. We got to do something about this, because I'm tired of seeing so many people cold and cold-hearted. But they become cold through the environment around them. They don't understand that the spark is within. The light is within all of us. If we collectively raise our energy and frequency, we can bring about a whole new world. And I don't say that lightly. We can truly change everything if we all get in this together.
Wow.
Well said.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Mark, we're not going to keep you any longer, but I want to thank you so much for being here, for sharing your message. And,
yes.
And once again, if there's anything that we could do to help, tap into us, we'd be more than happy to. And we want you to stay strong, stay healthy, and stay fierce.
Always, always. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for your time, because that's the most valuable thing. And I really appreciate it. And Jessica, Star, and Rob, I highly recommend, I don't know if you heard of this book. It's called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Just trust me. Trust me
Okay,
when I say read this book.
Okay.
And it's a man who is a neuroscientist, but he goes into like the quantum physics as to how everything is truly interconnected and how we emit an electromagnetic field of energy, and it goes really deep into everything. So yeah,
I'm with you. I'm on it.
All right.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much for hanging out.
All right. Have a very blessed evening. Okay.